Hello and welcome to today's issue, I don't know, of UK Column. It's been 2 weeks of UK Column News. It's Tuesday the 14th of April, just after 1 o'clock. Your hosts today, Mike Robinson and John Shackleton. And well, the weather's okay in Plymouth, quite nice, pleasant, blue skies. Look, pretty mixed picture around the country.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful out there. It's nice to wake up in the morning and have blue skies and sun. It makes us all a bit more positive, doesn't it, in life?
Yeah. Well, we're starting off with some positive news anyway, and that is Norman Scarth. Well, you may know that people that served in the Arctic convoys, the BBC here reporting that over the last couple of years they have been receiving medals from the Russians for serving in the Arctic convoys. And in fact, this was something that began, I think, in 2013. It had been previously banned that anybody that had served in the British military would receive a medal from a foreign power if they had served more than 5 years previously. And in fact, following a campaign that was changed. So BBC reporting on this in December 2014, and this is the Lancaster Guardian reporting on this issue in 2013. And of course, missing from this group of brave veterans was Norman Scarth. Because, as many people will know, he has been fighting the British government and British establishment for particularly the judiciary for a very long time. Well, glad to say that that has been rectified, because now that he's moved to Ireland, of course, the Russians apparently free to issue his medal and award it to him, and that happened just recently. And he was given that medal in Dublin at the Russian embassy. Invited to the Russian embassy, Dr. Maxim Peskov, Russian ambassador to the Republic of Ireland, has presented him with his medal. Well, that's good to see.
It's very good. It's excellent news, isn't it? Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Now, of course, Norman has been fighting the judiciary in this country for many, many years, and has been quite a controversial figure. He certainly doesn't take any flack from anybody. But he's not the only member of the sort of older generation that are suffering in this way. And we have Martin Foran here. BBC covered this in October last year. Wins a second miscarriage of justice appeal. And basically what's happening here is that this gentleman, terminally ill, he had been suffered two miscarriages of justice, which I believe is the only time that this has happened in British history. And the Court of Appeal ruled that his 1978 conviction, after a referral to the Criminal Case Review Commission, they decided that was a further miscarriage of justice, and they basically reversed that decision. Now, unfortunately, he still continues to be harassed.
And bullied, yeah. I mean, he spent 20 years in a cell in prison, not being compensated for it. And I hear the other day the police went round to his property and arrested him on the same day of the case. I mean, what on earth is going on?
So, continuing harassment for it seems like some people end up being targeted by the state, and once they're on that list, they just never, the harassment never stops.
That's right.
So, we need to support people like this, I think.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt.
Okay, I keep bringing this article up. I do it from time to time. Multiple paths lead to one world government. And this is an article written by Martin Edwards and myself in 2012. And we're really highlighting the fact that the Commonwealth is being used as one mechanism to bring in one world governance. Really the organisation that we're highlighting, two organisations in this article, both established by Prince Philip. But the one that I really want to discuss now is CSC Leaders. CSC Leaders, if you haven't come across it before, is a global leadership program for 100 exceptional senior leaders selected each year from government, business and NGOs across the 53 countries of the Commonwealth. Now, it goes on to say in the notes that I have here that CSC Leaders is a renewal of the Duke of Edinburgh's Commonwealth Study Conferences, and represents a partnership between the Duke of Edinburgh's Commonwealth Study Conferences and, as you might have guessed from the colours on this website here, Common Purpose, the international leadership organisation operating in 18 countries which has been giving people the inspiration, skills, and connections to become better leaders, both at work and society, over 21 years. Brilliant. Well, this year's CSC Leaders Conference is being held it happens every 6 years, it's being held in the UK. And guess who's supporting it? None other than Boris Johnson, who of course wants to be both Mayor of London and an MP at the same time. Another one of the benefits cheats here, Princess Anne.
That's right, yes. Well,
So-
the pair of them are cheats, let's say. They're cheating us and cheating the country.
Yeah. So they are supporting Common Purpose and CSC leaders. These meetings happening at the moment. This is really establishing a new elite and 100 leaders each year
Exactly.
chosen.
A new world order.
You might say that.
Elite people controlling the masses.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, total change of subject now. Vaccinations. Ian Crane discussed this last night on the Crane Report, but I thought this was an important enough story that we should raise it on the news today for those who didn't see the Crane Report last night. And this is Australia, where the government is basically saying that if you do not vaccinate your children, you basically will not get access to benefits, including childcare benefits. And this is the furore over this, as you can imagine, is quite significant. Now, it has to be said that the Australian government claims that over 90% of children between the ages of 1 and 5 have the required vaccines, but more than 39,000 children do not have vaccines because of parents' objections. And that number is up by 24,000 since a decade ago. So I'd be very interested if anybody wants to do a little bit of research for people to have a look at this article and look at the correlation, or if there is a correlation between autism and other similar conditions that children are receiving and this increase in vaccinations in Australia.
I mean, they should be informing us, shouldn't they, of what is in these vaccines. You know, we buy food, don't we, from the supermarket, etc., and it tells us what the contents are, and we can make an informed decision.
Yes.
But it seems that if they want to inject our children with these types of drugs, we don't get to inform. Are we not allowed to inform an opinion whether it's going to be good for them or bad for them?
Well, of course, it's increasingly easy to get an informed opinion because there's so many people talking about this subject now.
Yeah.
But still, the media supports the government line, and people are absolutely vilified if they do not vaccinate their children. So
Another form of control.
yeah,
Again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, if we could just bring this one up, Nick. Sorry. I just want to highlight the National Health Federation 60th anniversary conference coming up on the 25th of April. Scott Tips and a whole bunch of other people speaking at that. It's taking place in Manchester, in Mount Street, at the Friends Meeting House. It's £35 for the day. Strongly recommend that you go to this. We are great supporters. Well, we support Scott Tips in particular and the work of National Health Federation. They're the only sort of non-government they're the only non-government or non-government organisation that actually takes part in the Codex Alimentarius conferences, which, for those that don't know, are conferences which decide what are the appropriate amounts of vitamins and minerals that we're expected to take, what's the quality of our food supposed to be, and of course, as the NHF have been warning about for many, many years now, the quality of our food is falling on a daily basis, mainly as a result of Codex Alimentarius. So we're very keen to support this conference.
Yeah, without a doubt as well. Yeah, and you get accurate information because they're very independent. They're not part of what we call the brown envelope brigade.
And while we're sort of having a commercial break, I'd also just like to thank everybody that has made a financial contribution to the column and others in the last few weeks in particular, because it's been a while since I've done that. And just want to highlight one person in particular, wishes to remain anonymous, but somebody was very, very generous and sent 3 separate cheques, one for the UK column, one for Response, and one for Bastion Radio. And we just really like to thank that person because that's a pretty unprecedented thing as far as I'm
It
aware.
is, and it's so much appreciated because we are trying to do. We've got a number of projects that we've got ongoing and projects that we're taking on. So any help from you guys out there is well appreciated. I can guarantee that every penny is spent supporting you and supporting our members.
Yeah. Okay. War now. Sorry for the sort of slowness of the program today. I'm just getting back into the swing of things after a couple of weeks break. So here we've got Russia Today here pointing out that actually today the Normandy 4 were meeting again to discuss the Ukraine situation, and we have absolutely these four leaders pushing for the continuation of the ceasefire. It's been a bit sporadic, as we know, but they continue to push for the ceasefire in Ukraine, contrary to what we're being told in the wider mainstream media. Lavrov was there, who's the Russian foreign minister, with representation from Germany and so on as well. And they are particularly keen to see heavy armaments removed from the situation, tanks and so on, and to see all sides stopping the fighting. Of course, one of the issues that the mainstream media is not discussing with regards to Ukraine is that there are not just two sides in this conflict. There is the Ukrainian side, there are the Russian supporters, but there's the man in the middle, which is really the sort of neo-Nazi elements within Ukraine, who are really doing the best that they can to subvert any attempt at peace in that country. So, while the Normandy 4 continue to aim for ceasefire and peace, of course, in the UK, we continue to aim for war and more warmongering and controversy here from The Independent. Russian warships in the English Channel. This is really designed to sort of incite scaremongering in the British public. They're saying Russian warships in the English Channel to conduct anti-aircraft and anti-submarine military drills. Now they're saying that they have entered the English Channel. It has been reported. Who reported it? It would be the first question. They don't say. They're saying, sorry, I apologize. The Russian military defense officials are quoted by the Interfax news agency as saying that the ships belong to Russia's Northern Fleet, which sparked controversy with a similar move last November. Now, of course, it's not unheard of that Russian ships are in the English Channel. We don't really think that they're going to be doing anything too significant. It's a very busy waterway. And
they're not going to be doing anything out there. Our channel is one of the busiest shipping channels in the world.
Yeah. And
there's no way that you're not going to do military exercises when you've got massive container ships and ferries flying around. It's just not going to happen. It's obvious propaganda again.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting who is bringing up all this propaganda and what the agenda is behind it.
Well,
very interesting.
Yes, certainly being pushed by the British mainstream media. Okay, Response. What's happening with Response?
Well, a lot of good things are happening with Response. Adi was up north with another person that they were going to get evicted, and lucky enough, Adi from Response put together what we call a skeleton argument and an N244 form, and took that into the court with this chap and won the day again. So it's not all negative news. In fact, I think this is the fourth one this year. So that's not too bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think
so. Response doing a good job and really growing, continuing to grow. Yes,
we're continuing to grow. People are supporting us now, which is a massive bonus because there's an awful lot going on out there. Repossessions are on the increase. And we all, as a community, and I know I say this and I bang on about it, but as a community, we need to all stand together. As we are in groups, i.e. Response, Bastion Radio, you've got different bailiff groups going on. Every one of us, including the UK column and the British Constitutional Group, are all coming together, and the Peacekeepers Group, which will probably be mentioned in the coming weeks, are all getting together to help the community, literally to help the community, We're not doing it because we're making loads of money, because we're not. We're putting our own hands in our pockets or getting donations from good people like the chap we spoke about earlier. But we're all standing together. And one thing I'd like to say is, come on, let's stop the arguments and the egos. We said this at the conference last time. and stand together, right? Once we've stood together and we've taken over, if you like, this corrupt government and brought back our constitutional common law, yeah, then if you want to crack on with your little egos and that, carry on.
We're going to have some advice on constitution later on, but that we'll keep that for later. Okay, so moving on then. In 2010, Martin Edwards again wrote this article, Plundering State Assets with Public-Private Partnerships. And this has really been a theme in the UK column for a long time, is the asset stripping of this country in many, many different ways. And this is one of the avenues that we were highlighting going back to 5 years longer. I'm really glad to see Russia Today this morning pointing out the same situation. Britain crippled by 222 billion pounds of debt from backroom PFI deals. So they have done this report. They're saying that each UK citizen has amassed a debt of £3,400 without even knowing about it. This is due to a UK government scheme that signed controversial deals with private companies to borrow money on behalf of the public and pledging to pay it back later. The deals, which are known as private finance initiatives, were used by London to pay for public infrastructure such as schools and hospitals. Signed with private enterprises, they would allow the government to buy now, pay later, the Independent on Sunday reports, and so it goes on. Now, of course, if the government was using the policy of the Bradbury Pound, they wouldn't need to be getting involved in this kind of nonsense. But this is taxpayer money being diverted into private hands. It's been going on for a long time. In fact, it was John Major's government which began it in 1992, continued under the Blair regime and continued under Cameron. It is just another form of asset stripping on the basis of, well, we need the infrastructure. Well, this is not the way to pay for it.
No, they're forever doing it out. They're setting up organisations. I mean, you look at the police, and we reported on that last week, where they've yet again created a separate department and poured in tens of millions of pounds whilst they're skint. I'm not sure where that money's coming from.
This is a good question. Well, it's not coming from the European Union. Now, I was in France for the last 2 weeks, and it has staggered me how the exchange rate has changed very, very quickly, and it's hardly surprising. And this article in the Irish Examiner pointing this out, that the European Central Bank's quantitative easing scheme having exactly the expected outcome, which was to see the euro tank, and they're saying that, well, the euro now only accounts for 22% of worldwide currency reserves, and that's down from 28%. So while they're trying to sell these bogus assets to European banks and pump money back into the European banks that way, in fact, people outside the banking system in Europe are dumping euros as quickly as they could possibly get rid of them. So they're down to 22% of the global reserve, which means that people are even buying dollars as an alternative, which, bearing in mind, you only go back 6 months and everybody was warning about the dollar being a failed reserve currency, how quickly things have changed. This, of course, is absolutely understood by the European Central Bank. They know what they're doing, well, we wait to see exactly what the outcome is going to be.
Interesting, because the ruble's gone up, hasn't it? The ruble's increased in value, whilst the euro and the sterling has gone down.
Yes, but sterling not as fast as the euro.
No.
So the dollar, the euro, and sterling are all collapsing. We are all in a state of terminal banking collapse, and that applies to our currencies as well. And it's really the relative speed of the collapse that is governing the difference in exchange rate between the three currencies at the moment, and the Far Eastern, China, Russia, and the other organisations involved in the BRICS, they seem to be gaining the benefit from this, and they are actually buying up infrastructure left, right, and centre.
That's right, stabilising their own economies.
So, for example, with the Greek situation, the Russians offered to bail the Greeks out, but of course, in return, they wanted infrastructure. And you'll notice that many of the countries that are actually have a sensible economic policy are wanting to actually end up with tangible assets rather than reserve currency sitting in a vault somewhere.
Without reason, and this is why we find in not only in the UK but over in the USA and Spain reported evictions increasing.
Yes.
Tenfold, well, more than tenfold and this is asset stripping again, as we've discussed.
Yes. Yep. So, what is the solution for the Western financial system? They continue to flounder around trying to find some kind of solution, and this is the latest example of it. Citibank economist saying that it might be time to abolish cash, and so he's basically saying when economic conditions worsen, they react by reducing interest rates in order to stimulate the economy. But as has happened across the world in recent years, there comes a point where those central banks run out of room to cut. They can bring interest rates to zero, but reducing them further below is fraught with problems, the biggest of which is cash in the economy. And so Citibank's Willem Buiter is now suggesting that we get rid of cash, and basically that solves all the problems because basically they can fiddle the system even more than they do at present. And so they're saying that one way to sort this problem out is either to abolish currency. That's one option. Another option is to tax currency. So if you hold any currency, you end up paying tax on it. And another option is to remove the fixed exchange rate between currency and central bank reserves. All three of those absolutely nutty suggestions.
I wonder if that's a type of control again. So we've got the drugs that are controlling us, the food that's controlling us, the EU that are controlling us.
It's absolutely another form of control. If you do not have the option to pull cash out of your pocket and actually hand it over in return for goods, if you're required to use some form of electronic system, then of course you're totally limited in your own freedom. You must follow the rules, or your credit card, your bank card gets switched off.
It gets taken off, and then if you want to travel, if they don't want you to travel, they'll stop the card, won't they?
Well, exactly. So, anyway, we have an election. Did you know that?
I did, yes. Well, there was a rumour.
It seems to be a rumour to me. I've been away for 2 weeks. I come back and there's still no campaigning going on, and I'm wondering what is going on here.
I know there's supposed to be two main parties, and they're called the Conservatives and Labour, but they seem to be spouting about actually nothing.
Well, the Conservative Party has released their manifesto today, and this is one of the big things. The security of a home of your own will extend the right to buy and help build 400,000 new houses. So what are they talking about here? What they're saying is that they're going to sell off the housing stock of the housing associations, and then they're going to require the housing associations to build new housing stock. But of course, they have no ability to require private companies, the housing associations, to build new housing stock. So this is simply asset stripping, a form of asset stripping yet again. And what they're effectively doing is creating a housing problem for the future. But don't worry, because the Liberal Democrats have a solution to this problem. And their answer is help to rent.
Oh dear.
Helping young people move into their own place. And so what are they doing? What do you think that's about?
Well, I know what it's about, what they want to do. They've already put students, like I've got two of my children at university at the moment, and the debts are massive, 9,000 a year, as we all know. But now they want the other part of society, the other teenagers, to move out of their parents' property to get a loan. Well, I'll call it a debt actually, because that's the right thing to call it.
Yes.
To get a debt, and then to put them in debt as soon as they walk through the door.
So this will not be a government grant. It won't be a little boost up as you leave your parental home. Instead, they will offer you a low interest debt, which you then have to pay back in order to pay the deposit on your rental accommodation. It's a great scheme. Well done, Liberal Democrats.
State your life under debt.
You've got my vote. Now, just speaking of voting, just want to urge everybody to register to vote. Many people will find this a controversial comment, but there's two reasons why I say that. If you don't make your voice heard in some form, then you've got no right to complain with what you get afterwards. Of course, you don't have to vote for one of the main parties. You don't even have to vote for UKIP if you don't want to. There are a number of independents standing. Michael Doherty is standing. There's Stuart Hooper, who works with Patrick Henningsen on 21st Century Wire, is standing as an independent. There are many other people standing around the country that you may prefer to vote for. If you don't want to vote for anybody that's standing, the alternative is to spoil your vote. And let me just remind you again, if you spoil your ballot at the count, each spoiled ballot has to be actually examined individually, so you get the opportunity to send a message. The other reason to register to vote is that you cannot serve on a jury if you're not registered to vote. If there's anybody watching this program that doesn't understand the importance of serving on a jury. It is one of our key freedoms, and really, it is a matter of duty, in my opinion. You may have a different view.
Well, it's an interesting one. We all have different views, but I mean, I'm registered to vote mainly because I've got my own choice. I've got a freedom of choice, which I'm going to use. And if I want to vote for a party, I won't, because I don't believe in any of them. I think they're all corrupt. There are independents like Michael, who you've mentioned, who I would definitely vote for because he's a decent, honourable man, and we haven't got enough in this country. But yeah, you can also create a little bit of a protest by going in there, like you say, and put none of the above. They're all corrupt.
Yeah.
And send a message, you know. So you've got a few options, but I hope people do register to vote at least. Although I know there's people out there within certain movements that'll be, oh, that's data mining, that's taking all the information. Well, every time you go on Google, I'm afraid they're doing that.
Well, exactly. I mean, to be honest, the electoral roll is the least of our worries with regard to data mining and sending data around the place. And you know, you may choose to argue that, in fact, if you want to change that, the only way is to get rid of the corrupt, scandalous individuals that are in the House of Parliament at the moment. But the Green Party is calling for a peaceful political revolution.
To end austerity.
Yes.
That's right. Interesting, because a revolution just goes round, doesn't it?
Potentially. There's a couple of interesting things about the Green Party's latest. Sorry, they've published their manifesto as well. We're going to discuss that more with Justin Walker tomorrow, because they seem to be quite keen to promote some kind of national credit. But we'll have a look at that and talk about it tomorrow. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, what about Facebook then?
I'm not a big fan of Facebook. I mean, I have got a Facebook account, sadly, because somebody pretended that they were me and went onto Facebook, as it happens quite often for everybody. But the scary thing for me with Facebook is people seem to have their head down on the phone or on the laptop and live their life on Facebook. And they actually believe what's happening on Facebook is real life. This is literally, it's exactly what a government would love. For you to sit at home, not cause any hassle, and just go on Facebook, set up whatever, and chat about, you know, whatever theory that you may have, whilst they're gaining all the data and all the information about you, your family, your children, and your relatives, and where you're going.
Yeah, we've got to be using these tools sensibly.
Yeah, we have got to use them
Excuse
sensibly,
me.
yes.
Right, okay. And so we're going to end with this. Tell us about this.
Well, you know, it's important that we help different governmental bodies out there. So I've thought to myself, let's send them a book on constitutional law for dummies, because obviously they're not understanding the legalities, and they're not understanding what is the law, in fact, what's legal and what's lawful. They just don't seem to understand it. Even the police, Crown Prosecution Services, Ministry of Justice, they just don't seem to understand. So let's send them a little present.
Is that book being written?
I don't know. I think so.
It's interesting. I've been reading a book about John Adams, who was the second U.S. president.
Yeah, that's right. You said, yeah.
And he was absolutely anti-political parties. So after the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was issued in the United States, there was this big drive, wherever it came from, for political parties, and there were two political parties established in the U.S. at the time. And he and a few of the other original revolutionaries absolutely recognised the danger of people's loyalty going to a party.
Well, Britain's trying to take control of the whole of America, every American citizen.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you do decide to register to vote, and you do decide to vote, don't vote for one of the mainstream political parties.
Not,
vote for somebody like Michael Doherty, who is an upstanding, decent member of society, and who's independent. And let's see if we can't change the situation.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so this afternoon I will be having a chat with Mark Anderson from the United States, and we'll show that tomorrow. We'll also have Justin Walker on the programme tomorrow, and we've got a number of other interesting people for the rest of the week. So keep with us, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.